Welcome to Strat's Fireside Chat. This is Paul, also known as Strat-Edgy.
And this is Kale, also known as a rather drunk medic.
People just get into the formula and say, this works, I don't want it to stop working because I'm proud of how much money I'm earning. This is easy, I'm kind of enjoying it, let's keep doing it. If it's not broke, don't fix it. They fall into that mentality, not realizing that by not creating something new in a field that is inherently creative, you're all uploading the same thing. You're all just creating the same content the further down you go.
Yeah.
To a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I'll go to a channel, and I won't name any names because I don't want to be starting no shit, but I'll go to certain channels that do gaming news updates, right? And you will hear the same 7 or 8 talking points about something, right? And these are super popular channels, right? 200,000K subs above.
I know you're talking about, yeah.
Right, and they all say the same shit. It's like you're listening to the same talking point over and over and over again. Now, let's not talk about how insidious that part of it is, right? How repeating something over and over and over again sticks in people's minds psychologically, and it's been proven in research. It's called priming,
Logan.
right? It's called priming. You prime a person to act a particular way so that they're easier to manipulate. Right. So let's not talk about that, right? How the gaming news sites make rumor reality. Let's talk about how that seems like to me to be plagiarizing. Like, even though you are literally saying different words, your content is the same. Why do we not call out people like that for plagiarizing? Now, I know that it's possible that you can say the same thing about something that somebody else liked. That I understand. But when it's like news cycles, right? If one person said it, why the fuck do we need 7 or 8? I don't know.
7 or 8, like, videos on the same thing.
I don't know.
Pretty much all released at the same time, too. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
They all get within a few days of each other.
Well, what's fucked up is that when I get ready to write a video, I always watch other people's videos on those same topics to make sure I'm not repeating anything that they say. I try not to, and I'm sure I have. I'm sure I've said some things that other people have said. It's impossible not to. But I actually make a conscious effort to not do what these people do.
To avoid saying the same
talking points, yeah. Because, like, it irritates me as, like, a creative. I just go, you can't, dude, come up with your own twist on this thing. If you're going to be a journalist, investigate. Come up with something we haven't heard yet. Otherwise, why the fuck do I need you too? Why do I need you and 8 other fucking people to tell me the same thing?
It's like, I know Death Stranding has come out pretty recently, and every person has said the literal same thing about it. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily game journalism fault, or if it's just the game itself. This one kind of seems like an odd one out. But
it's journalism. Come on, man. The gaming journalism people, their writing is so below fucking par. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
When you read like a New York Times article or a New Yorker article or some other publication, that Wall Street Journal, Washington, whatever, any publication that employs people who know how to write, the writing is usually pretty fucking riveting, right? Vogue, Vanity Fair. Usually these companies employ good writers, right? Game journalism is just, it does not.
Hasn't improved much over the years.
It never has. It's just a bunch of geeks that really love games, who get into a position that they don't realize they're not going to like in 5 years. Because who wants to rush through a fucking game so they could get a review out on it? Who wants to rush through a game that they know they would normally really enjoy and have to finish it in 2 days? Who the fuck wants to do that, man? Because then you just get resentful towards the game because it's making you late.
All the little flaws or little contrivances that normally may actually be fun.
Yeah.
Like, let's say there's a bit of a time-consuming task, and like, for instance, Yakuza 0. When I'm doing the real estate, that shit takes fucking forever. If I was like a journalist, that shit would annoy the fuck out of me. I'd have to spend an entire night just doing that.
Yeah.
Just to get through it as quickly as possible and be like, yeah, I did it. But the cost of that is so much of the fun and charm of that game.
But that's the thing, like, right? So that is the economy of game reviews, right? Is that the publisher... Okay, so now we're going to get into a whole new rant here now. Game journalism itself has a bit of a problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's stuck in this infinite loop of you have to play a game in a very small amount of time, no matter how long it is, and then write up a review for that game with a certain amount of time, and then get it out the day the game releases or the day before the game releases. Now, think about how much pressure that is riding on you. And you have it. Go ahead.
And I also start thinking of like the review embargoes that some of these guys fucking put there.
Yeah.
Like some of these companies will put like 2 days before the game releases, you can start doing your reviews and start revealing shit of it. Like, holy shit, that's a lot of stress.
And there's a reason why that stuff happens. But let's talk about the whole game review process, right? So it's like let's say you get like 3 days to finish a game and get a review out, right? Let's say that game is Final Fantasy 15.
Ugh.
Right. That reviewer did not experience 100% of that content. He or she probably didn't even experience
10%.
70 to 50% of that game, right?
Yeah.
But they come out with a review for it anyway. When you're writing a review, it's not about the 100% of the game. It's about the percent of the game that you played, right? That you think was good, right?
Right.
But you should always know what the whole 100% is for those other people and take those people into consideration, right? When you make a review. This is why I don't do reviews.
Yeah. You've shied away from them for this exact reason.
And I just don't like to do them because I don't feel like I ever experience 100% of a game, so therefore I don't want to do the review. And I think back on the most insidious thing that happened was during Metal Gear Solid 5's review cycle, where they had all these people had to go to a fucking review camp.
Ugh.
They all had to be flown out to Konami Studios to play the fucking game, and they had to do it in 2 days.
No.
They had to at least get through the campaign 100% in 2 days. They said it was fucking arduous. It sucked. They hated it. They felt pressured. They felt pressured to say good things.
Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do this again.
Right. It was just awful. Right?
Like, how
and every review that came out praised that fucking game.
And it wasn't even finished.
It wasn't even fucking finished! Oh my god.
Don't get me wrong, it's a fun game, but it wasn't finished.
And this is why like guys like Super Bunny Hop became popular. Because he was breaking news about Konami, like real investigative journalism, before anybody else was talking about it.
Yeah.
Right? Like he was doing like real super good journalism, right?
Shout out to Super Bunny Hop.
Fuck yeah, dude. He's like my favorite YouTuber. The reviewers are not doing that kind of stuff. They're just writing a review, right? And they're doing it for a publication that has so much control over their livelihoods
that they have
and
to do
is directly in bed with the very people they're supposed to be critiquing.
Why do you think there's so many 7 out of 10s?
Right.
Why do you think it's a literal meme?
They absolutely cannot piss off the publishers because the publishers are their livelihoods. If they don't get that build early and they get fucking blacklisted, their publication is in the fucking dirt because people only care about the first reviews coming out.
That's
They
like...
look at the first review they get and then That's it.
I think that's also another issue with just how quickly we get content now, that kind of instant dopamine rush at any given moment.
Yeah.
It leads to a bigger issue within game journalism on YouTube as well, because you're only going to
Well,
care
they're doing
about
the same
first
thing.
Yeah.
They're in bed with the publishers in the exact same way. Right? Because they rely on getting the copies early so that they could do the reviews early. And they won't say anything terribly bad about a given game because it'll piss off the publisher with whom they rely on for a fucking living.
Yep.
Yeah. It's not great.
It's kind of a shitty system we have here.
It's not a great system, man.
I remember Angry Video Game Nerd doing a review on Earthbound. He did an entire fucking 53-minute video on Earthbound. And when he's looking back on it, he's looking on these game journalism magazines that are fucking shit-talking it. They're just ripping this game a new one. And the thing is, as they're ripping it a new one, it found out to be one of the most beloved games now. It is so highly requested, it's like $900 on eBay.
Now, yes, exactly. Now it is, right?
Yeah.
There's this really good book by Malcolm Gladwell called Blink, and he talks about how novelty and newness, like how we have, as people, we have a problem with that. And we have a problem processing it. That anything that is new and totally different is kind of frowned upon by people and not accepted at first, right? And it's pretty much it's across the board. So there was this chair designer he talks about. This chair designer was tasked with designing a new chair, and it was a follow-up to a really successful executive chair that he had created, right? It was super comfortable, everybody wanted it, yada, yada, yada. And this guy was really famous for designing, furniture and stuff. He was very good at his job. And he wanted to design a chair that was completely different from every other chair that he had designed, right? Because he didn't like how chairs were designed with like these big pads and everything. He thought that it was uncomfortable to sit in them because they made you sweat and they were hot and they just didn't feel good, right? Because your back isn't shaped like that. So he wanted to design a chair that he called look like the carapace of an insect, right? And the chair that he designed, I think it was called the Arrow. And what it looked like as an arrow, as an air, right? He designed this chair that it sort of looked like the carapace of a bug, right? It had a mesh back and this like spine that looked like a skeleton of like a bug or a person, right? And when they were doing user testing for it, it was critically panned by all the user testing. Users just didn't know what to make of it. They were like, it's ugly, I don't like it, it feels uncomfortable, all this stuff, right? And the thing is that it scored really high on comfortability. I'm wrong about that. They didn't say it was uncomfortable. They said it was aesthetically displeasing and they just didn't like it and all that stuff, right? But it was kind of comfortable. Very middling, right? And these scores that like this, they've never seen it before. Long story short, that chair went on to be what you see now with these mesh chairs that you see in like just about every office now. One of the best-selling chairs that they ever made. And it didn't matter that the user testing was like, this is dog shit, I hate this chair. It's that we have trouble with recognizing the value of novelty. Is basic, and I think this is like just an example of that.
The gaming journalism back then was so much different than it is now. It's actually, I think, probably less corrupt now than it used to be, because you got to understand that every single game console published their own review magazines.
Yep.
Nintendo Power, Sega did the same thing with Sega Master System. They had their own little magazine that they would send out to people who had Sega Master Systems like I did and tell you like what the new games that are coming out are. And this one's going to be great. It's a 5 out of 4. You know what I mean? It's like the highest scores they can fucking give this shit. Like
because
Alf,
it was theirs.
The video game.
Because it was theirs. And
Yes,
they wanted to promote
exactly.
it even further.
Exactly.
It's like if Sony was directly advertising their games, but also reviewing others to you. And every time you log in, you see Xbox exclusive, 3 out of 10. And they're just constantly trying to feed and beat this into you.
They couldn't do it like that, right? So the insidious thing about quantitative measurements, right, is that you can over time slowly manipulate those values in ways that people will not remember and will have to go and look up in an archival method, right? So like you could take like 1 point off of a game and people won't bat that much of an eye. It's like if your review is 1 point under somebody else's review, nobody talks about that. But if your review is 3 points off from another person's review, then people are pissed off. Now they want your fucking head on a pike. They want to fuck your mother while you watch. They want to do all these terrible things to you. Right? That's how fucking fragile the human mind is. It just breaks our fucking mind that somebody could not like something that everybody else liked. Here's the thing. That one guy is probably the guy you want to listen to sometimes. Right? If he's like a legit journalist.
Give him a chance at least.
Like, let's all think back to the fucking Kane and Lynch shit that happened. Let's all think back to that.
I don't remember that. You're gonna have to fill me in.
Okay, so I am remembering this. So if I fuck this up, I'm sorry. But if I remember this correctly, I think it was Gertzman who left YouTube or left GameSpot to go work on his own thing, Giant Bomb, because he caught no end of shit for the review that he gave Kane and Lynch. I think this is how this went, and he got fired for that article that he wrote, and it brought to light to people who apparently didn't know about this until then. Like, it's
don't know how you didn't.
It's always incredible to me, and people are always surprised by this shit. It's like you taking the slow bus to 2 towns over. Yeah. What was I saying?
Kane and Lynch.
Kane and Lynch. So he went to go do his own thing, and it became super popular. And Giant Bomb's now a really big influence on YouTube for reviews, for their first playthroughs of things and everything. And he's brutal with games sometimes. There's like a whole compilation of him just being a fucking
flaming dick.
Yes, just a dick. No, just ripping games the fuck up. And it's funny. But that's what it was like back then. And it still is that way today. It's just that these places have the gloss and sheen of an independent company. But that gloss and sheen, that's all that is. It's just epoxy painted over a real shit picture.
So
it's tough to talk about them because they're so corrupt, and everything always leads back to the money source. Because when you're beholden to advertisers, you cannot then... Like, games have such, like, narrow appeal in the mind of a marketer that all you can market alongside games are other games.
Yeah.
When that's not true. But they don't know about a thing called segmentation, right? Where you take the wants and likes of a specific group of people and then give them what they want, right? YouTube understands this. And this leads back into that whole FTC thing.
Yeah.
Right? Them collecting data on us is only legal because we are adults and we can consent to it. Children cannot, right?
They can't.
Right. But here's the thing. When is that hammer also going to come down on all of the independent publications that write game reviews and advertise directly to children? Using the same Google data that they collect on YouTube.
That's the real big question, isn't it? Because like these guys don't just review adult games, they also review the rated E for everyone.
Exactly.
And they may say, "Oh, it's for parents."
So that's where this is where, for me, I'm not worried, right? Because my audience is general audiences, right? There's a general audience exception in the FTC law that if you make content that just so happens to also be kid-friendly or something that a kid would want to watch, we can't blame you for that.
If you're making content for kids, but...
No,
if you're making content for like general audiences, but kids still manage to find it.
Exactly. You're making reviews for cartoons that adults watch. Right?
Right.
But you're doing an adult review of it. Right? Even though children will watch that video, we're not going to get pissed off at you for doing it because it's not your fault. Your target was adults, not children.
I wonder how this is going to affect things like Hazbin Hotel. That's my big concern, because new series that just came out on YouTube, very much for adults, but it has this animation style that makes it seem like one of the old Cartoon Network shows, like Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, but really clean and really well done. And it's taken like 4 or 5 years just to get the episodes ready to go. They have their first pilot up, and it's huge. And this is released 2-3 weeks before the FTC announces this. And it's like, ugh. Are they going to be caught in the crossfire? Because it's definitely not for kids, but kids will see this, and they will immediately click on it and try to watch it. Yeah. I mean, I think within the first 3 minutes, there's a porn star who fucks this random dude for drug money.
Mm-hmm.
Calls him a piece of shit, and this dude just dies brutally. All within the first 3 minutes.
Well, as long as they didn't set their channel to fucking kid-friendly, they're gonna be okay. No, I mean it, because their shit does not... It's a general audience kind of thing, right? It's not meant for kids, but kids probably are gonna want to watch it.
And I think that's something a lot of people should know, because I think a lot of people don't know that.
Kids want to watch war movies, too, right? Even though they absolutely should never, ever watch fucking war movies until they're of the age where their brain can understand what the fuck is happening.
Wait till you're in high school. Later in high school, not first year.
But, alright, so we'll move on from that. But like I said, like the review situation is... it kind of blows my mind, like, just how bad and corrupt that place has been, that sector of gaming. How just absolutely awful and corrupt it's been for so long, and it's been that way, and still is that way. Right? Like, you'd think, like, we would try and force them to make some kind of change. But apparently there's still money in that because these companies still exist.
Yeah.
Right? So they wouldn't exist if it weren't for something. Right? So people are going to these sites, they're patronizing them. And I wonder why. Like, I seriously haven't been to GameSpot in I can't tell you how many years.
We're constantly joking about how bad game journalism is, but they're still alive, and we got no one else to blame. Hey gamers, we're the fucking problem once again.
No, I don't know. I don't know. It's just I don't understand why everything has to be so black and white with them. Why everything... Why... And to get back to what the original point was, why they're so creatively bankrupt, it's this reason. It's because of how quickly reviews need to come out. Right? So, I have a feeling that in some way, all of these articles are somehow pre-written. I wonder if they are.
Kind of like a fill-in-the-blank article.
Yeah, sorta. I would like to go through all of the reviews that I see and just, like, tell if there's a form involved.
A pattern.
Yeah. Just like, you say this funny quip here, and then you do this, and then you do a funny quip here. I wonder if there's, like, a pattern to any of it.
You should do a video on that. You should see about your boy, Super Bunny Hop, being like, hey. I have an idea. Dormomu, I've come to bargain. Just see how deep the rabbit hole goes.